In August 2018, investigators in Frederick, Colorado, are alerted to a missing family. Chris Watts, a 33-year-old man, reports that his wife, Shanann Watts, and their 2 young daughters have not returned home from a business trip. Authorities arrive to find Shanann's vehicle in the driveway. She has not been seen for several hours. If stories like this matter to you, consider subscribing, because what happens next reveals how this system truly works. Chris Watts speaks to police with apparent concern. He provides details about Shanann's last known movements. He describes a routine evening at home, and claims that he left the house early to go to work, returning to find the family gone. Initial interviews suggest a man attempting to assist law enforcement. Investigators begin to collect statements from neighbors, friends, and co-workers. They establish a timeline for Shanann and the children. Surveillance footage from local businesses and traffic cameras is reviewed. The investigation is methodical, following standard procedures for missing persons. Police note inconsistencies in the statements Chris provides. He claims he left the family home around 5:30 a.m. to go to work. Multiple sources indicate he left later than that. Investigators continue to interview him, seeking clarity about his account. The tone remains factual, measured, and professional. Shanann's co-workers report that she did not arrive at work as scheduled. Phone records are analyzed. Investigators find that Shanann attempted to contact Chris multiple times on the morning she disappeared. He responds minimally and offers explanations that do not align with the phone log. Authorities obtain a search warrant for the Watts family home. They examine the property for evidence. Police observe items that appear out of place. Further investigation focuses on discrepancies between Chris's statements and the physical evidence present at the residence. On the evening of August 13, 2018, police review surveillance footage provided by a local business. The video shows Chris Watts leaving the home in the early morning hours. Investigators note the time and actions recorded. This footage contradicts his earlier statements regarding when he departed the residence. Confronted with the video, Chris Watts revises his account. He claims that he attempted to locate his family after returning home. Investigators continue to question him in a structured and methodical manner. They document each inconsistency. Law enforcement maintains a focus on verifiable facts, recording statements and evidence without speculation. Police obtain consent to search Chris Watts's vehicle. Forensic teams examine the interior and trunk. Items consistent with the timeline of Shanann and her children's disappearance are identified. Investigators cross-reference evidence with prior statements and surveillance records. Each step follows established investigative protocols. On August 15, 2018, police announced the discovery of human remains near an oil field close to Frederick. The remains are later confirmed to be Shanann and the 2 children. Forensic analysis establishes time and cause of death. Chris Watts is taken into custody for questioning regarding the deaths. During initial interrogations, Watts provides limited information. Investigators continue to present evidence, including the surveillance video and forensic findings. He maintains a narrative that suggests he was unaware of his family's location or safety. Each statement is recorded and reviewed for accuracy against independently verified evidence. Authorities conduct interviews with friends, family, and colleagues of both Shanann and Chris Watts. These conversations provide insight into family dynamics, work schedules, and prior interactions. Investigators note patterns of behavior and collect corroborating statements. All evidence is documented in accordance with legal standards. Over the following days, police review vehicle records, phone data, and digital communications. They identify inconsistencies between the timeline of the disappearance and Chris Watts's account. Each discrepancy is presented to him in a controlled environment. Investigators continue to maintain a professional and factual approach. On August 15, 2018, Chris Watts provides a detailed confession to law enforcement. He admits to killing Shanann and the children. The confession corresponds with the previously collected forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and physical evidence from the home. Investigators record the confession in accordance with legal requirements. Chris Watts is formally charged with multiple counts, including first-degree murder and unlawful termination of a minor. The legal process follows standard procedures. Bail is denied due to the severity of the charges. Court dates are scheduled and the case proceeds through pretrial motions. The Watts case attracts national attention due to the nature of the crimes and the rapid unraveling of the initial narrative. Media coverage focuses on the verified facts of the investigation, the timeline of events, and law enforcement procedures. Coverage remains rooted in confirmed information. Legal proceedings include the presentation of evidence such as surveillance video, phone records, and forensic findings. Witnesses testify regarding the timeline and interactions with the Watts family. The prosecution relies exclusively on verified documentation, physical evidence, and recorded statements. During sentencing, Chris Watts pleads guilty to multiple counts. The court evaluates the facts established through investigation and forensic analysis. Sentencing reflects the gravity of the crimes as confirmed by verifiable evidence. No speculation or dramatization is introduced. The case demonstrates the role of evidence in confirming or disproving statements provided to law enforcement. Surveillance footage, phone records, and forensic analysis serve as critical tools for establishing a factual timeline. Law enforcement procedures follow methodical standards to ensure accuracy and legality. In the aftermath, authorities emphasize the importance of evidence-based investigation. Public discussions highlight procedural integrity and the reliance on verified facts in determining accountability. Educational reviews of the case focus on legal processes and forensic methodology rather than sensational aspects of the crimes. The Watts case continues to serve as a reference point for studies in criminal behavior, forensic investigation, and law enforcement procedures. Each element of the case, from missing person reports to final sentencing, is documented and verified through multiple independent sources. The systematic collection of evidence and methodical analysis by law enforcement provides a factual account of the events. It underscores the critical importance of verification, corroboration, and adherence to legal standards in complex criminal investigations. The case of Chris Watts demonstrates how inconsistencies in statements can be identified and addressed through careful review of factual evidence. Surveillance video, forensic analysis, and investigative interviews collectively establish a timeline grounded in reality. In closing, the Watts case exemplifies the impact of verified evidence in resolving criminal investigations. Law enforcement's reliance on documentation, physical evidence, and methodical questioning ensures that conclusions are based on fact rather than assumption. Following his confession, Chris Watts is formally charged with first-degree murder and multiple counts relating to his family. Law enforcement secures the evidence collected during the investigation. Forensic analysts catalog each item from the home, the vehicle, and the oil field where the bodies were discovered. Each sample is tested and logged. Investigators prepare for the upcoming legal proceedings. They compile surveillance footage, phone records, digital communications, and witness statements. Each piece of evidence is cross-referenced with the timeline established during interviews. The objective is to create a factual, chronological record of events. Chris Watts's legal team begins reviewing the case. They receive full access to the investigation files, including the recorded confession. The team evaluates evidence, timelines, and witness accounts. Their focus is on understanding how each element might affect pretrial motions and the upcoming trial. During preliminary hearings, the prosecution presents verified evidence to the court. This includes surveillance footage confirming Chris's movements on the morning of the disappearance, phone records establishing communications with Shannon Watts, and forensic evidence collected from the residence and vehicle. Each point is presented in factual, measured terms. Investigators continue to examine the oil field site where the bodies were found. Forensic experts document soil conditions, distances, and placement of each remains. DNA testing and toxicology reports are reviewed to confirm identities and causes of death. Each result is recorded and added to the official case files. Friends and colleagues of Shannon Watts provide statements about her personality, routines, and family interactions. These testimonies are factual and focus on timelines, locations, and actions. Investigators verify each statement through independent evidence, ensuring that all contributions to the case are substantiated. The legal process emphasizes methodical adherence to procedure. Judges oversee hearings regarding bail, evidence admissibility, and pretrial motions. Each ruling is documented. Lawyers for both sides present arguments based solely on verified information. There is no speculation or dramatization. Media coverage remains focused on factual reporting. Journalists cite court filings, official statements, and police reports. National attention is drawn to the case due to the nature of the crimes, but coverage remains rooted in verifiable events. Editorial content avoids unverified claims or conjecture. Forensic teams conduct additional testing on materials from the family home and the oil field. This includes analyzing fingerprints, fibers, and digital evidence. Results are compared with prior statements and timelines to ensure accuracy. Each conclusion is based solely on evidence. The prosecution begins preparing for trial strategy. Their approach relies on documentation, forensic findings, and recorded statements. Investigators provide organized evidence packages, including surveillance video, phone records, and physical evidence. The aim is to establish a clear, factual narrative in court. Pretrial motions address the admissibility of evidence, including the confession and digital records. The defense reviews each motion carefully. Judges evaluate requests with reference to legal precedent and factual accuracy. Each ruling is formally entered into the record. The community reacts to the case in measured ways. Neighbors and local officials comment on verified facts about the investigation, the arrests, and procedural steps. Public statements are grounded in confirmed evidence rather than speculation. Law enforcement maintains transparency about the status of the investigation. Chris Watts is evaluated by correctional and mental health professionals prior to sentencing. Assessments focus on documented behavior, verified statements, and observed interactions. No assumptions are made beyond factual observations recorded by professionals. Reports are submitted to the court for consideration. As the trial approaches, investigators finalize all evidence packets. This includes forensic reports, witness statements, and chronological timelines of events. Each document is verified, cross-referenced, and entered into court records. The goal is to present a factual, coherent account of the events leading to the deaths of Shanann Watts and her children. Law enforcement emphasizes the importance of methodical investigation. Each step, from evidence collection to witness interviews, follows established procedures. Investigators rely on verification at every stage to ensure the integrity of the case. Documentation is thorough, precise, and factual. The trial itself is scheduled to begin in the coming weeks. Judges and attorneys review all materials. Pretrial conferences address legal questions regarding evidence presentation. All discussions are strictly procedural and based on verified facts. There is no room for conjecture or dramatization in court. Throughout pretrial proceedings, public attention remains high. Law enforcement and court officials focus on maintaining procedural integrity. Media coverage cites only court filings, official statements, and factual reporting. The case serves as an example of how investigative procedure and legal protocol intersect in complex criminal cases. Investigators continue to review evidence for any potential discrepancies. Each new finding is documented and corroborated with previous records. The process ensures that when the case proceeds to trial, all material is accurate, verifiable, and properly supported by evidence. The Watts case remains a point of study in forensic investigation and criminal procedure. Each step, from initial reporting to pretrial preparation, demonstrates the importance of documentation, verification, and adherence to legal standards. Law enforcement's role is to maintain factual accuracy at all times. The trial of Chris Watts begins in November 2018 in Weld County, Colorado. Court proceedings follow standard protocol. Prosecutors present verified evidence, including forensic reports, surveillance footage, phone records, and the confession recorded after Watts' arrest. Each piece is introduced in chronological order. Witnesses testify under oath. Colleagues and friends of Shanann Watts provide factual accounts of her last known movements. Neighbors confirm observations of the family home and traffic patterns near the oil field where the bodies were discovered. All statements are documented and cross-referenced with other evidence. The prosecution introduces the recorded confession in court. Watts admits to killing Shanann and the two children. The confession is consistent with physical evidence collected by investigators. Judges ensure the statement's admissibility meets legal standards. The confession provides a factual narrative of events that aligns with surveillance and forensic analysis. Forensic experts testify regarding the cause of death and the condition of the remains. Toxicology reports, DNA testing, and other analyses confirm the identities of Shanann and the children. Each finding is based on documented testing procedures and established forensic methods. No unverified claims are introduced. The defense focuses on procedural aspects of the investigation. Motions regarding the admissibility of certain statements and evidence are filed. Judges rule based on law, evidence, and precedent. All proceedings adhere strictly to procedural and factual requirements. There is no speculation presented in court. Witness testimony includes law enforcement officers who investigated the case. Officers describe the collection of evidence, the review of surveillance footage, and the process of interviewing Chris Watts. Each statement focuses on verifiable actions and observations. Officers provide a factual account of the steps taken to ensure procedural integrity. Digital evidence plays a key role. Phone records confirm communication timelines between Shanann Watts and Chris Watts. Surveillance footage establishes movements and behaviors on the day of the disappearances. These records are analyzed and presented without interpretation beyond the documented facts. Legal experts review evidence relating to the oil field where the bodies were found. Forensic teams describe how remains were recovered, documented, and tested. Each step of evidence collection is conducted according to standard protocols. Observations are limited to factual findings. During the trial, Chris Watts's demeanor is noted by court personnel. Observations of behavior are factual, describing posture, tone, and responses during testimony. No interpretation of emotion or intent is introduced. Court transcripts record all exchanges for accuracy. The jury is presented with the full timeline of events. Evidence and testimony are organized to clearly demonstrate the sequence of actions leading to the deaths of Shanann and the children. Each point is corroborated by multiple sources, including forensic reports, surveillance footage, and recorded statements. The court examines the role of deception in Watts's initial statements. Investigators detail the discrepancies between his early accounts and the verified evidence. The presentation is strictly factual, showing how investigation methodology uncovered inconsistencies. No conjecture regarding motive is included beyond documented admissions. Legal counsel for the defense raises questions about procedure, but all claims are addressed by reference to verified evidence. Judges evaluate motions according to law. Court rulings are documented. The trial proceeds according to standard legal practice. In December 2018, Chris Watts enters a plea agreement. He pleads guilty to multiple counts of first-degree murder, unlawful termination of a minor, and other related charges. The agreement is formally recorded in court, including the factual admissions outlined in his confession. Sentencing occurs following the plea. The judge evaluates evidence and official reports. Sentences are delivered according to statutory guidelines for the crimes committed. Legal documentation confirms the penalties imposed, including life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Correctional assessments are conducted prior to Watts's placement in the state facility. Evaluations include behavioral observation, physical health checks, and verification of the convictions. No assumptions are made beyond what is documented and observed. The aftermath of the case involves community response and procedural review. Law enforcement and legal authorities document lessons learned, focusing on investigative protocol, evidence handling, and procedural integrity. Reports are factual, emphasizing procedural accuracy rather than sensational aspects of the crime. Media coverage remains factual. Reports cite court filings, official statements, and verified timelines. Analysis is limited to the procedural and evidentiary aspects of the case. Public statements are derived from documented facts and official court records. The Watts case continues to be referenced in studies of criminal investigation, forensic analysis, and law enforcement procedure. Each aspect, from initial reporting to sentencing, is used as a documented example of methodical investigative work and adherence to legal standards. The collection, verification, and presentation of evidence demonstrate the critical role of procedure and documentation in complex criminal cases. Investigators' adherence to factual methodology ensures that the legal process remains grounded in verifiable information. In conclusion, the trial, plea, and sentencing of Chris Watts highlight the importance of evidence-based investigation and procedural integrity. Each step, from confession to court proceedings, is documented and verifiable. The case serves as a reference for both law enforcement and forensic study. Following sentencing, Chris Watts is transferred to a Colorado State Correctional Facility. Intake procedures are standard. He undergoes identification processing, health screening, and risk assessment. All information is documented in official correctional records. Watts is assigned a housing unit based on classification protocols. The classification considers security level, behavior, and risk to self or others. Staff conduct routine orientation regarding facility rules and procedures. Each step is documented in compliance with state correctional regulations. Correctional officers monitor daily activity. Logs are maintained for movements, work assignments, and interactions. Observations focus solely on behavior and adherence to facility rules. All documentation follows standard correctional procedures. Legal obligations continue following sentencing. Watts is required to participate in hearings regarding any appeals or procedural reviews. His legal counsel remains involved to ensure procedural compliance and to review case records. All submissions are formally filed with the court. Victim Advocacy and Family Services provide verified updates to Sean N. Watts' extended family. Communication is factual, emphasizing documented case developments and court proceedings. Counseling and support services operate within established legal and procedural frameworks. Correctional staff implement monitoring protocols for all inmates, including Watts. These protocols include routine health checks, behavioral observations, and reporting any incidents. All records are factual and maintained according to facility standards. The criminal justice system continues to review case outcomes. Prosecutors and investigators assess procedural effectiveness. Reports highlight the accuracy of evidence collection, witness interviews, and forensic analysis. Each recommendation is grounded in verified observations. Law enforcement agencies use the Watts case as a reference in training programs. Officers study evidence collection, interrogation methods, and procedural documentation. Emphasis is placed on factual reporting and adherence to legal standards rather than sensationalized details. Public records related to the case remain accessible. Court filings, official statements, and forensic reports are available for research and educational purposes. Documentation is strictly factual and verified for accuracy. Forensic analysts periodically review materials from the original investigation. This includes digital records, DNA samples, and other physical evidence. All reviews are conducted according to established scientific protocols. Findings are recorded without interpretation beyond factual results. Media coverage after sentencing continues to report verified developments. Reports focus on legal documentation, facility placement, and procedural updates. Statements are derived from official sources, including court records and law enforcement agencies. The correctional facility monitors compliance with sentencing requirements. Records indicate that Watts remains in custody without parole eligibility. Daily logs, security reviews, and behavioral assessments are documented according to facility regulations. Ongoing analysis of the case informs procedural improvements. Law enforcement and correctional agencies evaluate investigative methods, interview techniques, and evidence handling. Recommendations are based solely on verified observations and factual outcomes. Legal authorities review the implications of the plea agreement. Documentation confirms that charges were properly adjudicated and that sentencing complied with state statutes. Each procedural step is recorded and verified. Training programs for law enforcement include case studies derived from the Watts investigation. Focus areas include evidence collection, digital record analysis, and timeline verification. All instructional materials rely on factual documentation rather than conjecture. Psychological and behavioral evaluations conducted during intake are documented. Reports focus on observed conduct, compliance with correctional rules, and verified statements from investigators. No assumptions beyond verified observations are included. Family members continue to receive updates through official channels. Communications are factual, focusing on documented developments and legal requirements. Victim services ensure that updates are accurate and follow state procedures. The case remains a point of reference for academic research in criminal justice and forensic science. Studies focus on procedural accuracy, evidence verification, and the role of forensic analysis in solving complex cases. Research relies entirely on verified records.